that is still on the call as we end today. So when I throw back to Tony to close out, if you are still on the call, I'm taking a snapshot of that and you'll get a special resource in addition to what all of the jam-packed information I've crowded into today's session. You'll get an extra piece of info by hanging on the line for us, because I know that it's hard to do for an hour and a half, so I appreciate your attention. The second thing I want to do at the very end of the session is I want to do a bit of a brainstorming session, and it is going to be hard via video, but I have put together this list of what I believe is a really comprehensive list of actions and things that will help you survive right now. And we're going to go through that in the next hour and 15 minutes. I want to allow the last sort of 10 or 15 minutes for us to I want to throw it out to you guys, because right here what we have, as I said, I'm counting, Tony can probably give me a whole number. It looks like about 50 people from what I can see. Yeah, there's about 50 odd people on this call right now. Is that right, Tony? I can't hear you, but yeah, a large number. Yeah. So what I want to try and do, though, is a bit of a brainstorming session, because there's 50 minds here. There's 50 of you. We're all in the same industry. I've collated a really comprehensive list for you, but there may be things I've missed. So there's two things I want you to do while you're listening to me talking today. I want you to jot down any ideas, which you would normally anyway, any ideas that you're going to use. Anything that you get from this session that you go, bang on, that's something I'm going to start tomorrow or today, I can do that. So jot down good ideas for yourself. I want you to also, while you're listening to me, think about things I haven't covered. If there is something you're doing in your industry, in your space, in your company, from home, if you've got a good idea, let's share it. Yes, there's competitors on this call. I get that. I'm not asking you to give away secrets. I'm not asking you to breach confidentiality. I'm talking about this is a community. We are going to survive this all together. We know that. We're only going to do that if we work together. So happy for you to share at the end, as I said, when we do the brainstorm. So please start thinking about those, jot those down. And at the end, when I call for it, please don't be shy. Let's yell them out. Let's get them down. I'll add them to the presentation and they'll go out to everybody. Any ideas that I've missed? Are we all cool with that? Give me a thumbs up. Beautiful. All right, let's get going. So I'm going to switch across to my presentation. Now, can everybody see? Can someone just turn their mic on and tell me? Can everyone see my screen? No.
No.
Can't see that. Tony, have I got, hang on, I've got host things. Okay, hang on. I just need to share it with you all. All right, no, that one. Okay, let's go. So now can just give me a thumbs up, someone. Can we see the screen that says recruiter survival skills? Yep, beautiful, excellent. Okay, so moving into, as I said, what will be hopefully the next hour and a bit jam-packed with ideas for you in understanding where we are in this crazy world that we're living in at the moment, and how we might survive it as recruiters. And you would have heard just in those few intros, there's quite a bit of experience on the call as well. So we've got people with less than a year's experience who will have fresh ideas, and we've got people who've been in the industry for 20 years who have been through this before. So there's lots of value to being in this group. So just to let you know who the session is for, I've designed this for consultants, so mainly aimed at people who are on the desk working as recruitment consultants, but you could be billing managers, team leaders, or senior managers. We're all doing recruitment in some form or another. There are a couple of owners of recruitment agencies on this call as well, who are still hands-on, or who are managing a team of recruiters and want to take some of this information back. So that's who we've got on the call, and that's who you people are. Who am I? My name is Adele Last. If you don't know me, I run my own training and recruitment consulting business, consulting to the recruitment industry, called Career Lasso. And I have been in recruitment myself. This is my 23rd year in the industry. I have worked in blue collar, white collar, IT, safety. I've worked executive, I've worked temp, I've worked perm, I've worked contract and contingent. So I've got a really broad background of skills in terms of the kinds of recruitment I've done myself, and I'm hoping that allows me to provide really good examples for you and relevancy to your areas. So haven't done any, medical type specialist, and I know that is a little different. So I have managed a business that had managed a nursing agency as part of another generalist business I manage. So I know that one is a little different, but I'll try and make that relevant as well. All right, moving on. The survival kit inclusions, what we're going to cover today. We're going to look at the low job order environment that we're in, and I think it was Julia that was telling us at the start it's a no job order environment for her. She's in travel and hospitality, so it's either low or no job orders at the moment. We're going to look at top 10 proactive activities. There's literally hundreds that I've collected and collated. When I say top 10, each one probably has 4 or 5 subsets underneath it. So I'm going to try and pack in, as I said, as many proactive things that you can be doing now. I'm going to talk a little bit about adapting the recruitment process and how we do need to start to evolve and change, and always these kind of scenarios, these kind of challenges, these kind of setbacks to the industry create an environment where we can get innovative about what we do. And that's the cool part of this. Can't see it right now while we're in pain, but sorry, I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. And I'll talk a little bit about career future proofing. So looking at trying to prevent something like this happening for you and having as great an impact as it might have, because I reckon it's probably caught most of us off guard, if we're really honest. I want to talk a little bit about mental health care. I know some of you might be really on top of this. Some of you might not have thought about it too much. And I've got some really specific tips around our industry and how that impacts what you're doing. And I've got an action plan at the end. So I've got a takeaway for you that will actually allow you to go from this session straight into, and that's why I want you to jot down for now the ideas that you think that I'm giving you that are good. They're going to go into the action plan at the end, and you keep that resource. So that's what we're going to cover off. All right, so just talking about the job short market. The last time we had a situation like this was what they called the GFC, the global financial crisis, which technically didn't hit Australia really hard. We only copped kind of the tail end of that, and yet it still had a pretty significant impact on Australia as a business. So, you know, that is, it's more than 10 years since that's been the case. So, you know, it's a long time that we've had a relatively buoyant market for recruitment, and certainly not necessarily job short. The big impacts are to permanent recruitment, no doubt about that. The reason for that is we know that permanent recruitment requires confidence. It requires business confidence, people to feel comfortable that I'm going to make this commitment to a new employee, I'm going to pay this salary, and I'm going to get back, you know, what I want done, or what the work involves. And that requires, as I said, that business confidence. So, you know, that's what we're suffering from at the moment, because technically, and many of you will be aware of this, we are not in a recession. There is no economic impact just yet. You know, we have a health crisis that's having an economic impact, but the true indicator of a recession has not necessarily appeared just yet. So we're not quite there, but what we've got is a lack of confidence in where the market might be heading. Perm recruitment revenues during the GFC dropped by about 60%. And so, you know, that's massive. More than half of the market was wiped out. And it wasn't even as fast as we're seeing now. So we currently have other difficulties that we're dealing with, which weren't part of the GFC, working from home. And I say working from home difficulties because for most people, a lot of companies, that was a big issue. They hadn't really thought about that. They hadn't done that, other than the odd person working from home here and there. Others of you may have had a reasonable regularity to your working from home arrangement, but it still was different once it became the permanent, the norm. So even if you worked from home part of your week or every so often, it's very different to then going, okay, now that's your normal workplace. And so that created obviously its own difficulties, and it's creating difficulties, as we know, for our clients. So it's part of the reason why some of them are saying, well, I can't hire because I can't have this new person start from home. Is that right? Are you guys hearing that? Is that one of the reasons? Thumbs up. Are you hearing clients say, I can't go ahead with the perm job because how do I onboard the person? How do I train them? How do I recruit from home? Yeah, getting some thumbs up there. So and as I said, working from home is still relatively new en masse like that, and it being a permanent arrangement, and probably really difficult for people to manage temps in that space. How am I going to have a temp working from home? I can't contemplate that. And so, you know, again, as I said, it's turned the whole job market into a job short market virtually overnight for us. Early estimations, I've got this data from some key people in the industry recently, that we're already about 35 to 40% down. Some of you may say more. Some of you may say I've lost, you know, 80% of my jobs. At the moment, when I took that stat, that's about where we sat. We had already lost about 35% of jobs that were on prior to March, let's say, if you look at February to March figures. All right, heading into this top 10 that I promised. And as I said, each one has got its own kind of subsets of information. So so work through with me. Some of it is on the screen, and some of it I'm talking my way through just to keep it interesting for you. The first tip that I want to give you about surviving in this job short market, surviving in this current landscape of the economy, is that you need to adjust your sales strategy now. So if you haven't already. So what I mean by that is whatever you were doing, whatever sales activities you were doing before, you need to review those now, and you need to adjust them. You need to really look at what is the current offering. What am I offering clients currently, or what had I been offering clients previously, and how might I need to adjust that? We'll come back to some of those innovations a little bit later on. You need to have a look at the sales process. Obviously, it's going to be longer at the moment. Obviously, in order to get a client on board, in order to convert it to business and to get a placement out of it, is just going to be a longer process. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just is going to take a little longer, and you need to adjust that in your figures and in your targets. So when you're setting yourself targets of your pipeline and what things look like, you need to obviously adjust that time frame. You really need to look at the value adds at this stage, because a lot of people aren't buying, and we realize that. So if people aren't transacting with you financially, taking a service and paying for it, what are the other value adds that that they might pay for, or that may keep you in connection with the client? So really, again, look through your sales strategy. Probably doesn't have a lot of value adds because it's been focused on sales. So have a look at what are the other things that we can add value with, pardon me, and think about having those genuine conversations with a client. You really need to have a conversation with them about what those value adds might be. We make some assumptions around those things, I'll tell you. There are many things that companies have already come out with, they're already offering, they're looking at providing. There's a lot of things people are offering, and they're saying, you know, here, I have this free. I saw one yesterday. I won't actually say what it was or who it was, but they were offering something for free, which sounds great, but nobody can buy it right now. So it's free and it's a great offer, but if you really can't use it, is it really valuable? Is there real value to it? So I encourage you to have a really good think about that, and if not, have a genuine conversation with your client about it, and make sure that you really understand what they consider value. Think about doing an audit of your clients, of the work that you do, of the desk that you're running, of the temps that you're managing. And I don't mean an audit of compliance. I don't mean an audit of you know, safety requirements or their resumes or any of that sort of stuff. What I'm talking about is taking stock of again, what you've got in the cupboard in terms of your sales process, in terms of what is it that you're actually offering, and maybe doing a little audit with the clients. And I'll come back to that a little bit later as well. There is no doubt about that temp will definitely weather better through this storm and will recover more strongly coming out of it. And that comes from two previous you know, downturns that I've been involved in. The GFC is one I've mentioned. We did have a recession in the 90s as well, which I've been through. Tony, who's on the call, will say there's two or three more that he's been in, but he's a bit older than me, so I won't admit to those ones. But certainly two that I've been involved in, and temp definitely, you know, survived. Temp, if you're running temp business along with your perm, you're in a much better position. If you don't have any temp business, if you're a straight perm consultant, if your agency only does perm, you're feeling the pain greater than anyone else now. We know that. But there are ways to try and evolve that into some temp work. And I encourage you to do that because it is where people will, it kind of counteracts that confidence element and allows business to continue on. So I definitely encourage you to weather the storm through temp if you can. And as I said, it will definitely recover. This is the list that a lot of people have wanted. This is resilient industries. So my second tip here is to target those resilient industries. And I know that we've spent a lot of time being specialists in some cases, some of you in very specific areas, but you may need to get creative about what business you can do right now. So, you know, Julia at the top of the call mentioned she does travel and hospitality, but she also mentioned marketing as well and some other areas. Focus on those other areas. She's already doing that now, I'm sure. If some of you are working in really specialized spaces, you know, medical imaging was mentioned before, you know, really specialized space. You have client contacts who have other work in other areas. Maybe that space is not as busy at the moment, but what else are they doing within their organization? Who else can they refer you to? But this is a list I put together. I think there's about 30 odd, 40, almost 40 industries there that I've called resilient industries. These are industries that have weathered previous recessions and GFCs. These are industries where activity seems to continue on regardless of huge economic ebb and flow. They sometimes are still impacted. Education is listed there, but education I know has been impacted as well. But it's also then increased from the digital side. So if you were providing teaching staff in the education space, what else could you be doing in the education space? What do they need now? They may need people with greater IT skills. So who could you collaborate with on that? So if you're working in any of those spaces and you see some of those industries you're working in now, you know, great, good on you. If there are some that you haven't worked in and you think you could target based on other client relationships you've got, then jump in, get that list. You'll get this presentation at the end, but that is a full comprehensive list, as I said, of those industries that are busy at the moment. All right. Next point I want to make is about looking at innovating your service offering. So what I mean by this one is looking at, you know, what we do as recruiters has not really fundamentally changed, you know, really since it started, but you need to try and evolve it where you can. So my image here is about, you know, we're not trying to be something completely different, you know, so it's still a light bulb. It just looks a bit different and acts a little bit differently. So I'm not suggesting that you completely innovate in the context of a different business altogether, because there will still be a need for your recruitment services post this situation. But I am encouraging you to think about how can you do what you currently do just slightly differently. And sometimes it takes a situation like this for us to be able to think in an innovative fashion. So innovation often comes from necessity. And sometimes if we don't need to innovate because business is coming in and things are good, then, you know, we don't think about the creative side or the creative answers to things. So I encourage you to think about, you know, what else could I be doing and who else could I be servicing? Again, talking about those industries. So the what else, who else question. I encourage you to think about the core skills in your team, in yourself. You know, sit down and make a list of what are your core strengths and skills individually and then as a team, and who might be interested in those skills. You might surprise yourself that there's some core skills there that you may not have thought about marketing to clients or making use of. So certainly have a look at that and think about what does the market need right now. So again, if you're working in a space where they don't need staff right now, what is it that they do actually need? Could you still offer something in that service offering, in that line from an HR perspective that is still relevant to your skill set, relevant to what they need, relevant to maintaining your relationship with them, but maybe it isn't straight recruitment anymore. Maybe it isn't finding a temp right now, or maybe it is finding someone and making it a temp instead of a perm. think about reversing your advertising. You know, people have done this for a while and they've done it off and on, but, you know, advertising candidates instead of jobs. Think about, you know, I mean, we've, as I said, people have done this. You've done things like, you know, hot candidate flyers and candidate of the month and recommended candidate. And, you know, those kind of things have been around for a long time. I know that's not new, but I'm talking about actually advertising a candidate like you would a job. I'm talking about actually writing a really compelling bio about the person, maybe recording a video of them, and actually using it like a product to go out to the market. It's the way, it's reverse marketing. I did a session last week on reverse marketing for those of you that joined me on that last week. It's the ultimate reverse marketing. It's actually taking the product and going, here is the product that I have. Now, we don't tend to do that in recruitment because it's a person and it doesn't suit everybody. One person doesn't suit every business that you're dealing with. So it's a much harder way to advertise and market. But right now, that's all you've got. All you've got are the products on the shelf, which are your candidates. You don't have the jobs. So why don't you try and offer out your candidates? Why don't you advertise your candidates out to your market? Try and be specific, use all of the tips that I mentioned last week with reverse marketing. So be targeted and be specific about it, but think about turning this on its head. We don't always have to advertise jobs. We could advertise people as an option. Think about your interview process. We've already probably all switched that. Video interviewing, video assessments. How can we use this format better? You know, we tend to just get on and we have a chat and we do an interview. What else could be done from a video perspective in terms of using this medium, again, to help you reach out to the right people, record the right information about your candidates? You know, video advertising of candidates, so candidates doing a pitch to screen about themselves is not really widely used as far as I know. Does anyone want to put their hand up to tell me, is anyone using a system where you are recording a candidate video and sending it to your client, a video of your candidate? Just put your hands up or a thumbs up. I'm just having a quick flick through the pages. Very few people. I think I only saw one. Sorry if I missed anybody else, but yeah. So you're actually you know, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity to look at the tools and the resources that we've got currently, and as I said, how could we use those differently? So video tends to be now our main method of communication. We're all getting more and more comfortable with it every day, myself included. But yeah, you think about how you could innovate that as well. All right, moving on to the next one. This slide's a bit controversial, isn't it? Since we're not supposed to be that close to each other. No social distancing going on in that image. And I'm using this one as a means of demonstrating a candidate pool. So I'm just using a funny image to kind of grab your attention in that sense of think about strategic candidate pooling. And what I mean by this is you would have seen a lot of information coming out in our industry. You would have seen blog posts. You would have seen people talking about get on the phone and talk to clients and candidates. And absolutely, yes, I'm absolutely advocating for that. But I'm saying you need to be a bit more strategic about it. Because as we know, we'll all spend a lot of time on the phone, wasting time on the phone. And yeah, you might say, well, we've got a lot of time at the moment. Sure, we have. But you need to be really strategic about who you're speaking to and what you're speaking to them about. So I encourage you to not just have conversations, but to look at this as a replenishment of skill sets in your recruitment cupboard. So take a stock take an audit of, you know, I recruit in marketing. What are the kinds of people I've got available to me at the moment? What am I missing? I happen to be missing people who are particularly good in this computer software program, digital marketers who run in design. How am I going to build up the stock of people in that space? And then that's what I want to target. They're the kind of people I want to target. They're the conversations I'm going to have. They're the people I'm going to hunt down. So it's almost headhunting for a job you don't have, but based on a skill set group. Does that make sense? So look for strategic candidate pooling. As I said, the skills that you need for your own industry that you work in, for the company that you work for. Look at where you are low in the cupboard and where you need to replenish those skills and find those people and have those strategic conversations. So as I said, it's kind of almost reverse headhunting. You're headhunting, but you don't have a job for it at the moment. You are building relationships along the way, and they will pay off, as we all know, when the market picks back up again and we're able to use those people from our cupboard and start placing them in jobs. And if you've built good relationships with them, you'll be able to move quickly when the market does recover. I encourage you to use data to drive your candidate pooling and your candidate strategic marketing. All of you probably have really sophisticated databases where you've got a whole lot of information that we're not making much use of. I'll come back to database in a minute on its own, but I'm talking specifically here to look at some of the candidates that have been applying. Look at people that have been applying regularly of late. Look at people that are new. You'll all have candidates now that are applying to jobs or applying to your agency unsolicited ad hoc who've never applied before. Okay, this is where we'll start to tease out people we couldn't access before. And this is a really powerful time to build those relationships with those people, because they'll all run away and hide as soon as the market picks back up again. It'll be hard to find them again. So I encourage you to find those people that are coming out of the woodwork now because everybody's feeling a bit uncertain about their jobs, or they've been made redundant, or they want to see what else is out there. And as I said, but have those, strategic conversations. I mentioned reverse marketing. I still think it's a really powerful tool. I see Jeff's on the call with us. I use Jeff as a reference point in my reverse marketing session. Jeff, I have to pay you a royalty for that, I think. But I mentioned Jeff as a really good example of where he gives that example of how he was able to grow his business really successfully. Yes, there was the work that came in, but when there wasn't work coming in, he was out there reverse marketing. He was out there taking the products that he already had and marketing them out and getting new business that way. It is still one of the best ways that you will grow business, develop your client base, increase your revenue, all of those things. So absolutely encourage you to do that. And if you were in my session last week, you'll know I say it starts with the interview. It starts with knowing the candidate really well, intimately, understanding everything about them so that you can reverse market them out. And we now have time to do that. We have time to get to know candidates really well in this market. So encourage you to do that. Also encourage you to keep an eye out for some other great tools that are out there. There are plenty of candidates in a lot of pain at the moment, and sometimes we can't help them. We can't assist if we can't recruit them right now. So what else could we do with them? What else could we advise them? So be an advisor to candidates in the space. Be somebody that people will go to for information and advice. And there are some great organisations out there providing services to candidates free or at low cost that you can refer them to if you can't help them straight away. So one of them is a company called Thrive, which are offering free career counselling sessions. They're a career counselling organisation that have trained occupational counsellors, and they're offering free services at the moment. Another one is a company called Candidate Coach. Look out for that one. They're about to launch and they're about to run a subscription-based program with a whole lot of online videos. So have a look out for that one as well. But yeah, think about your candidate side, the candidate side of what you could be doing at this point. All right, the next one I want to talk about is spreading that positive message. So I want to talk about the importance of that in this time, and the fact that it's really hard to do. So send a positive message out. I say it will become infectious. That's a really bad choice of words, I know, in the current climate, but it will become infectious. Positive messages are much more infectious than negative ones. And whilst it is hard to be positive, I think it's really important that we send out that positive message. I think that's really important because that does help drive business confidence. We spoke at the start of the conversation about perm recruitment being impacted by business confidence, by people's perception. If we were all, as I said, there's 50 of us on this call. If we were all sending out a positive message all the time that things are going to be okay, that we're going to recover, that it's going to be okay, all of these things all the time. Imagine the power of the 50 of us, never mind the rest of the industry. It will help drive sentiment up. People will say, well, why is the recruitment industry so positive? Why are they thinking it's going to be such a good outcome? They seem to be really positive about this. And people will remember that. We will drive sentiment up if we can do it as a group. So I encourage you to keep positive about the situation and send out as many positive messages as you can. Collaborate and share. It is really important, and it's hard for a lot of organizations to do this. I understand that. The recruitment industry that I started in, and you know, there's many veterans on this call who've got as much experience as I have, will remember a time when the recruitment industry was not so collaborative. The recruitment industry was not so good at sharing information and ideas and working together. In fact, you know, the RCSA, our recruitment association, would hold events and nobody would show up because you're all too scared to, you know, look at your competitors. And, you know, Walter's laughing at me. He's remembering maybe, you know, you didn't want to talk to anyone because you might be poached, or your boss might see you talking to them. And it was a really strange environment to be in. Thankfully, we're not there anymore. Thankfully, we've evolved as an industry, and we do collaborate much better. We do share information. We do understand and respect confidentialities and competition, but we understand that there's space for all of us to exist and coexist and thrive as well in that space. So this is now the time to do it more than ever. If you've thought about reaching out to others, do it. If you've thought about joining organisations where you can collaborate, there are associations, NPA is one of them, where you can actually, in a very formal sense, connect and communicate. Think about doing it, you know, think about these sorts of forums that Tony's running that provide a great opportunity to connect with others on the call, or put a call out saying, hey, I'm needing some help in this space. Does anyone know where, you know, where I could find these kind of people? We need to work together in order for us all to survive. Why do we all need to survive? Because that's good for our industry, good for business. So really think about collaborating and sharing. And I'm going to come back to that at the end of the session, as I'd asked you all to think about sharing new other ideas that I haven't covered. So jot those down now. Keep remembering to jot down other ideas you might have for this hard time. And I want to add those to my presentation. So think about what we're going to share today. And be a source of information to your clients. It's really important that you are well informed about the current situation, both from a health perspective, from an economic perspective, from a business and political perspective. I don't expect you to be experts, but it's really valuable to make sure that you're well read. So subscribe to the right articles and blogs, follow the right people on social media, read the right information so that you are well informed. And when I say the right information, I'm not talking propaganda, I'm talking, you know, reliable government resources, so that you've got the right information at hand and you can again calm down people's perception. We've all heard hysterical news reports. We've all spoken to someone and they've said, oh God, can you believe this? This is what's going on. You know, people are stabbing each other, you know, for toilet paper. And then you read the actual article and it's a little different to the perception of what the rumor is that's spread. So I encourage you to be a source of information to clients and be informed and help you spread that positive message. You don't have to be, you know, cockeyed optimistic about it and ridiculous, but you definitely need to find, you know, the positive side of it is what I'll encourage you to do. The other things you can be doing right now are around brand awareness. So I encourage you to review your marketing plan or create one if you don't have one. If the company you work for doesn't have one, this is a great time to do that. Get together with a group of you and look at the marketing plan. Really important to understand. And I talked at the top of the presentation about a sales strategy. This is different marketing plans. Sales and marketing do tie in beautifully together. If you don't understand the difference between those, marketing generates leads and sales converts them. Okay, so we spoke about the hardcore sales stuff, but I'm talking now about the marketing, the generation of leads, the generation of the pipeline of business. So if you don't have a marketing plan, get onto it now. This is a great time to write one up. If you do have one, obviously have a review of it and readjust it where you need to, obviously for the current market. Action all those items that have been forgotten or put on the back burner. We all have them. I did a training session online this morning on time management, and we were talking about using Stephen Covey's time management model, which gets you to prioritize things into 4 quadrants of importance. And the 4th quadrant is, the least important things. And I was telling this group, if you've got things in your quadrant 4 that have been sitting there for a week or more, they're probably not that important. You're not going to do them. Get rid of them. But now, this is the time where you could be pulling out those things that you kind of put on your list, your to-do list, and you never quite got around to doing it. I think some of us are getting good at doing those ones at home, the list of chores and jobs we had around the house that we wanted to do. It's the same thing at work. There is a list of chores or jobs that you've been meaning to do at work. If you haven't already actioned those, get onto those now. It's a perfect time to knock those off the list and get rid of them for no other reason other than to get rid of them. I'm saying bring marketing in-house or renegotiate your contract. So if you have an internal marketing department or dedicated resource, you need to really obviously work closely with that person and, as I said, review the plan. If you outsource it to another company, think about that as a means of saving some money perhaps and re-bringing that in now that you've got time to sit and look at your own marketing plan, or renegotiate the contract. If that person's of real value to you, is a valuable external resource, talk to them about how you can work with them. They're in pain as well. They're a small business probably. Talk to them about how you can work with them in a different way, given you might be able to take on some of the marketing activity that they were doing previously. So, you want to not diminish your brand. There's lots of evidence that suggests now is not the time to reduce your marketing activity. So I'm not saying reduce the marketing activity. Look at ways that you can do it differently and potentially a bit cheaper to save some of that cost for your company. If there's things that you've got a bit of an art for certain things, speak up about that and take that on even in the short term for your company. Reset brand vision and push it everywhere. So take a chance to kind of retouch back to your company's vision. What is the brand stand for? What are they known for? The best way to do this is to think about having never worked in your business before, the business that you're working in. What does it look like from the outside? What would people say about you? If I was to ring 5 of your clients right now, how would they describe your business? That's the kind of analysis you want to do of your brand at the moment. What do we look like? Not what we think we want to be or what we look like. What do we actually look like? What do we actually look like in the market now? What are we known for? What does our reputation mean? And maybe that needs a bit of a reset, and then you need to be pushing that out everywhere. That's the message. Whatever it is you're seen as, I encourage you to focus on that. We might be trying to evolve that. We might have been trying to evolve that before this started. Now is not the time necessarily to kind of go, whoa, we're this very different business over here to what you knew. It's probably not a time to take a whole new brand, a new direction in that sense. So encourage you to stay with what's tried and true and follow that through and push it out everywhere, as I said. And really know your market and understand what it is customers want, as I said, what they value getting from you and what your brand means, and deep dive on their behaviors. Now is a time to do a bit of an audit of what actually does happen in your space. So you might think what is really fantastic is that you get all of your business exclusively. You work with clients only exclusively, and that's a really positive angle for how you run your business or how you run your desk. But the reality might be very different to the market out there. Now's the time to sort of stop and have a look at that. Ask those questions of clients. So again, like I said, having those strategic conversations with candidates. When you're ringing clients, yes, you're going to spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about coronavirus and what's going on. No doubt about that. I'm not saying don't have those conversations, but really have an agenda to that call. Have a purpose to kind of say, what is it that has been going well with our relationship? What is it that you really value? Tell me about how things have evolved in your recruitment process or in your hiring process. Have those really deep dive conversations that sometimes we don't get time to do. Sometimes we're so busy going, yep, give me the job order, I'm filling this, I'm doing that, I'm running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm not really noticing the subtle changes that are going on in my client's business. And now is the time that you've got time to come up, head up and do that. All right, moving on to the next one, which is about social media strategy. So it's important that that we use social media again in a strategic fashion. So again, I've seen lots of information out there by industry experts going, yeah, use the time to, you know, put stuff out, be really vocal on social media. I encourage you again to just slow down a bit and be strategic about it, because there's a lot of shit, if I'm really honest. You know, there's a lot of crap being sent out at the moment that people, I wonder, have they really thought through? You know, I read you know, a story this morning about someone's story about buying toilet paper. Yeah, okay, you know, fine, it was a bit funny. Do I really want to know about this? You know, what is it saying about my brand image? And if that's your image, that's okay too. I felt like it was a little, you know, a little done. I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear about toilet paper anymore. So think about the media, the strategy that you want to have for social media. You absolutely need to be on it. Now is not the time to be quiet. Now is the time to do all of that social media activity you never had time for before. And we all had that. We all went, oh yeah, I want to post more. I want to do video more. I want to write blogs. I want to do all these things on social media. We've all been doing that. There's probably very few of us on this call that do it actively, consistently. We've all been saying we're going to do it. Now is the time. Get your strategy in order and then start actioning and build up a bit of a bank of information that you can keep pushing out, even past post this crisis. You know, create a library of blogs that you can keep posting out. So so I've said there, create a plan in line with the brand that you're working with and the marketing goals. So that's why it's important to have the marketing strategy. So then you can make sure that your social media strategy ties into that. Yes, spend the time tidying up and aligning profiles. And I mean specifically for LinkedIn. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is as good as it can be. LinkedIn have got some great free training going on at the moment that you can do. And there's certainly LinkedIn strategy experts you can connect with who'll do a bit of a health check on your LinkedIn profile and tell you whether it's any good, whether you've got the right keywords in there, whether your title description is attracting the right kind of client or candidate. So take some time to really have a look at, because I think for most of us, we kind of throw some stuff up there. We get a company blurb that we're given when we start and we put that up and then we don't think too much more about it. So you look at it with new eyes, specifically your LinkedIn profile, and do a bit of a review and tidy up and make sure it's aligned across everybody in your team as well, or within your organization. Think about producing some original content. There's actually not a lot of original content, believe it or not. A lot of people reshare and repost and recomment, and that's okay too when we're busy. But again, you've got some time now to create some original content, write some articles, research some information, read a book and write a review on it. How many love that? Can you put your hand up? I love that. When someone's read a book, you know, not a novel, a professional development book that I want to read, and they write a review about it and they tell me what's good and bad about it. Yeah, I love that. I think that's, you know, that could be a really great way to show your knowledge and intelligence and certainly create some engagement with people as well. So yeah, producing original content. And as I said, think about creating a library where you can bank that up for when we get busy again, because you won't have the time for it. And the final thing I want to say about that is make sure in your social media strategy that you create a voice for each platform. So each of the different platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn and you know, TikTok's there if you're using that. Each platform that you're using has a different audience. And so you need a different voice. You need to talk in a different way. You need to present things in a different way for each of those different platforms. If you're not sure about that, get in an expert to talk to you about how that works and use some of that time to make sure you're creating a strategy for each one. All right, my next one is the database. Couldn't go through this without talking about our databases. They are a very powerful and expensive tool that for the most part, I don't see people using anywhere near as extensively as they should. And I love technology and I love databases and I love all of the add-ins and things that we've got, as do a lot of you. Do we really use them as well as we should? You know, probably not. So I will say what is out there, what everyone's saying, you know, take this time to do a serious cleanup. And I mean serious. I would actually pretend you're starting the business from scratch. Almost imagine the database is clean and you've got all of this data and you're going to decide what goes in one by one. Is this client record one that we're keeping? Yes or no? Is this candidate record one that we're keeping? Yes or no? And start cleansing it. Start getting rid of all of the rubbish that you normally don't have time to look at, to action, to do. If you've got candidates you haven't heard from, you know, we're all doing that. Ring up everyone on your database. Are they still around? Are they still alive? As we know, you know, there'll be people on people's databases who aren't around or interested or wanting to be contacted. Then get rid of it. Get rid of it out of your database because it's clogging it up. It's making it messy. It's making it hard to find people when you really need to find them. So this is the perfect time to do that. And as I said, I would encourage you to pretend that you've got a clean database and you're starting from scratch. For those of you doing temp recruitment out there, really great time to set up some key availability skill sets. So we tend to set up availability lists based on availability. You know, this person's ready from next Monday. And so they are at the top of my, you know, they're at the middle of the list, and someone who's available tomorrow is at the top of the list. And so availability lists are often set by time. Now is the time to also look at slicing and dicing those further into skill sets if you're not already doing that. So these are the people that are available, but of the people that are available, here's how I'm going to find them in these particular categories. You might have keyword search functionality that already does that. You might have saved lists, saved favorites. Each database calls them something different, but start getting those availability lists in order of skill sets. That'll also allow you to do the stock take that I mentioned earlier, and you can see, hey, you know what? I don't seem to have many people with you know, executive assistant experience at a high level in a corporate environment, or I don't seem to have many people with this software knowledge or coding in this space. That's where I need to replenish the cupboard, and then that's where you start going out and having those strategic conversations with candidates and still recruiting, doing the first part of recruitment, which is sourcing the candidates that we need. So those key availability lists can be really valuable, and obviously get your prospects in order as well. You absolutely want to make sure, you know, all of us have got junk on our database, client data, junk. That is really out of date. There are clients that are no longer trading. There's clients that are merged. They've got double records. You've got a whole lot of crap on your databases, unless you're a brand new agency that just started yesterday. You might have a clean database. All the rest of you, I guarantee, will have rubbish on your database that you can do with cleaning up. So get the prospects in order, and then that'll make it really clear who you've got to contact. Okay, again, there's been all of this advice about get on the phones, call clients and candidates. Who? Okay, I'll call all the clients that I was working with right before this happened. I'll call all the clients that might have a job order for me or that I know really well or I like. Who next? Yes, there's prospects, but you're not going to be able to sell right now. So get strategic about it. Who are the prospects that you do need to keep in touch with now, because that will convert to business later. You don't want to be ringing everyone on your database. Maybe you do. If you do, then put those in order. Put those into the right order so that you know which ones I'm calling first, which ones I'm calling next, who's calling what. Yeah, you don't want to double up as well. All right. The next point I want to make is about building your online network. Again, a great time to do this. I find a lot of people don't spend good quality time, particularly on things like LinkedIn and on other forums where your clients will be mingling and potentially your candidates as well. So we tend to get very general about sort of looking through those kind of things and just liking and sharing posts and those sorts of things. But you need to be strategic about it now. Who do I need to contact and why for the future? And start building that network online. So think about finding the right people, connecting with the right people is really important. Join an online community, you know, find places where your clients and candidates are hanging out, write comments, give opinions, be vocal. So you have to be active. You have to spend a bit of time working on this. I do a rookie recruitment training program, and I talk to my newbies about being active every day. So I make them do 10 minutes. I say to them, I want you on social media, LinkedIn specifically, 10 minutes a day, actively on there, not just mindlessly scrolling through. I'm talking about, as I said, commenting, giving opinions, being vocal, making a post that's relevant. So 10 valuable minutes of good content is really important. Recommend products and services of other businesses. You know, people love that. People want to know what others are using. It's the whole idea about, you know, the reading of the book and giving a review. What are you using? What other tools and things are you using that you might want to comment on? You might be having a problem with something. Don't be negative about it, but maybe someone can help you solve a problem you're having with a particular tool or something that's going on. So talk about services and businesses that you use and make recommendations. It all comes back to you if you do that sort of stuff. It's really positive. Introduce yourself in a smart way, fun and personal emails. You know, it's interesting. Email has kind of come in a full circle now. You know, it used to be a time when you didn't want to email people because people's inboxes were bombarded. We've kind of pared back a little bit from that now. Some of that has stopped, and what you're finding is people getting emails. If you make it very personal and targeted, and even a bit fun, you know, if you've got a good sense of humor and a good way of writing, then you might grab someone's attention by an email. So don't be afraid of using email now. As I said, I think it's sort of started to come back into fashion again, so to speak. There was a time when we sort of said, don't send out emails, people are bombarded. Link in with businesses. Obviously, all of your clients you should be following now. You should be connected to all of your client businesses and all the prospects. Watch the prospects and what they're doing, because if you're watching them closely now, when the market turns and changes, you'll notice that they're starting to hire again. You'll notice that they start talking about another project. You'll notice that they start coming up for air, and you'll do that by what they're putting out professionally, either on their websites or on social media. So follow the ones that you want to watch, because you'll be right at the forefront of when things start to turn, and then you'll be able to jump on it really early. And I encourage you to endorse each other as well on social media. So I know there's a bit of controversy about whether they're worth anything, those endorsements. Again, while we've got time, if there's somebody that you really think is good at what they do, go ahead and endorse them. It definitely doesn't hurt, I think, to have it. And I think, you know, the point I want to make about the online network is right now, community spirit is at an all-time high. People are absolutely interested in connecting. There's 50 of you on this call because you wanted to find out, one, from me, but you also, you know, are going to have a little chance, not necessarily to network, but to share some ideas. So I absolutely encourage you to harness the fact that everyone's feeling quite collaborative at this time. We're all in this together. You know, you've heard this hashtag. Everyone's feeling, you know, like helping each other right now. So harness that. And what I mean by that is you'll be able to connect with people and speak to people now who may not have talked to you before. That's the truth of it now. There are people who will answer your call, will pick up the phone, will respond to your message or your connection request, who may not have done it before, because everyone's a bit unsure. So take advantage of that right now, not in a bad way. Take advantage of it and getting out there as actively as you can. The last one I'll make a note of is professional development. This is a great time to absolutely invest in your time and money in some professional development for yourself. I say, you know, invest wisely. And the reality is it could be a good 12 months before you'll train again. Before the market settles enough for everybody to breathe out. It might be, we don't know how long it's going to be, but right now everybody is trying to survive. You know, this presentation is about survival skills. Everyone's just trying to keep their head above water right now and tread on the spot. Professional development and learning is about moving forward. We may not be able to do that for a little while. So now is a good time, while you've got some time, to think about upskilling, to think about honing skills. Congratulations to those of you that have continued to do the sessions that Tony and I have been running, because they've all been small parts of the recruitment function. As I said last week, we just did reverse marketing. I did an hour and a half of just reverse marketing skills. It was polishing and honing that skill set as well as it could be done. So keep doing those kind of things. There's lots of people offering sessions out there. Lots of them are free and at cheap cost. So definitely sit down and think about a bit of a training plan for yourself. What is it I could be better at? What do I still want to learn? And then hunt out some of that training for yourself. A lot of it is online now, so it's easy in, you know, bite-sized chunks. So it is a good use of your time at the moment. All right, I want to talk a little bit now about adapting the recruitment process. And I want to talk about, I guess where we need to evolve, which is why I got the evolution image there. I want to talk about how we need some ideas I've had around adapting the process, but I'm open, and this is where some of you might have come up with some other ideas. So, get jotting down in your notes. So, yes, meaningful conversations with clients is something that I've mentioned before. I really want you to think about having an agenda to the conversation with the client. There is absolutely no point other than, letting off a little bit of the stress of it all, ringing a client and just talking about coronavirus and how they're not recruiting, and okay, well, give us a call when it's up and going again. Thanks very much. Bye. It's almost no point other than, as I said, you are building a bit of the relationship. Have a meaningful conversation with the client. Use the time to have a question you want to ask them about. Go through a process. Do something. Find something in your business that will be meaningful. As I said, in terms of what you can talk to the client about. One of them is to do an account review. This is the perfect time to talk to your client about how the service has been going. How have we been responding? What is the quality of the people we've been presenting? How many of them are still there? Some of us don't want to ask that question, do we? We have a guarantee period. We sue through a guarantee period. We know the ones that are still there a year or two later when we go to the client site. We go, oh yeah, Sally's still there. Oh, I feel good. I placed her 2 years ago. How many of the placements you've made with your clients over the years are not there? Do you know that number? Find it out, right? Find out how well your recruitment is sticking in the client site. They might not even remember. Do you know I placed Sally there 5 years ago? Oh, I didn't know you placed Sally with us. Yeah, I did. That's it speaks right to your credibility with the client. So do an account review. There are great some of you have got those internally already, account review documents you can use. That's basically a list of questions. If you don't have it, create that. Look at the things that you'd want to know in order to help innovate and improve your service. And that's a meaningful conversation with the client. Do it by video. Make an appointment to do it. Call the client and say, chit chat for 20 minutes about coronavirus. Now, hey, I want to take up a bit more of your time. When is a good time for me to speak to you? Can I make a time with you and send you an invite? And I want to go through some stuff to do with our service between our businesses. They'll do that now. They've got time as well. So an account review is a great reason to have that meaningful conversation. Think about offering free assessments of their recruitment process. We don't often get invited to do that. The client has their part of the process. We do our part and we refer people, and then they kind of do their part. What happens in their part? Some of us know that in depth, but some of you don't. Some of you don't know exactly what the client does once they take your candidate. How many interviews are happening? How do they assess in the interviews? Are they using behavioural-based interview questions? What does their interview sheet look like? How do they make those decisions? So do it as a bit of a research project. Say to the client, I'm collecting this data because I want to understand it better. One, for when we work together, but I want to understand how different businesses are doing it, or in the industry. You could put together a white paper about that, about the way people recruit in that particular industry, if you find patterns in the data as well. So think about offering that as a free assessment to assess their recruitment process. It will help you later on. It will help you understand exactly what the client is doing with your candidates afterwards. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Excuse me a moment. This is an obvious one. Obviously, ensure you're set up for remote activities. Most of us are nowadays, really quickly in the last week in some cases, but make sure that you've got all of those things checked off and set up well. And so maybe you can offer those to some of the smaller businesses you might work with as well, in terms of being able to help facilitate those services for remote recruitment activities. Look at remote virtual onboarding. This is, we mentioned it at the top of the conversation, this is one of the biggest barriers at the moment. Clients are saying they can't hire because they don't know how to onboard. How am I going to hire this person? How are they going to start in the business if we're not in the same room together? Okay, we've got to get past this, just the way we all would have only 3 weeks ago gone, imagine everybody was working from home. We would have gone, no, that's not going to work. Definitely not going to work. And now it is, right? 3 weeks later, the reality is it's working. We're all still surviving in this business. There's many businesses thriving in this situation. They're doing better. Okay, so the remote virtual onboarding thing is also a stumbling block. We've got to get them past that. There's some great articles out. Actually, I read one. I've put it in the resource page at the end if you are hanging around till the end of the session. There is a great article video that I watched last night from an organisation that has got some great ideas on coaching your clients through how they, all the tips and risks they need to look at for virtual onboarding. Obviously, there's the obvious ones around IT and how to get them their laptop and all that stuff, but some other great tips in there around how people can be onboarded, building team synergy still while you're not all in the same room and all of those kind of things. So, you know, we really have to get our clients past that. Means we have to get past it first. So, you know, the industry is hurting. I get that as a recruitment industry, and there's people being made redundant and people losing jobs. But, you know, we've also got to think about it for ourselves. If you need to hire someone, don't stop now in this process. Take your own medicine, hire a person that's good and onboard them to your business virtually. Find a way to do it so you can use that to write an article and send it to your clients. Write an instruction sheet to your clients and say, here's how it can be done. I've just done it. I've done it successfully. The person's on board. So we've got to get past this one. That's going to be, for me, the next big killer for, you know, yes, you know, business is slowed and confidence is down. But if we can't get clients to see that this is normal now, how are you going to onboard? We're not going to get past it. So another one is fee for service. I'm seeing some agencies looking at offering part service. You know, if clients have already started their recruitment process, how could we take your long list and shortlist it for you? Could we do reference checks for you? Could we use our technology to do the background checks and verification qualification checks for you, or whatever it might be? So think about breaking up your service. That's a possibility as well. If the client doesn't want the whole service, think about how you might be able to break it up, and that might be able to reduce the cost to the client, allow them to still transact with you in one way or another. I will warn about free service. I did see one sort of going, we'll offer our services free, while just be careful about that one. You know, it completely devalues what we do. So definitely make a fee, but maybe break it down. Conditional start date contracts, where that's another solution around the kind of virtual onboarding question. So I'm starting to see that. Some of you seeing that. Has anybody had a placement that's gone through and the client has provided a conditional start date contract, meaning they haven't put the exact start date, they've said in the future? Anyone put their hand up? Or can't see anybody with that one so far. Can't see everybody's video either, but I'm interested to know whether people are starting to see those. I've seen one so far, and in terms of, it looks like a normal employment contract. It's an offer of employment. It just has a conditional start date, and it has a clause in there which covers both parties to kind of go, if it doesn't happen, you know, here's the out clauses. Martin Richardson's on this call. If you want to talk to him at the end about maybe drawing up something like that you can put in front of clients. It says, hey, there's a way out of this. There's a solution for this. You can help with that, Martin? Yes? Yeah, perfect. Great. So connect to Tony, and he'll put you in touch with Martin Richardson, who can actually help you put together a contract like that again. So you can still go through the recruitment process. Clients can still hire. It just means that start dates, you know, may have these conditions around them, and, you know, business still moves on. Look at tools and assessments that improve accuracy. So what are we doing that is still very laborious, still very manual? There's a lot that we've taken out of the process, I understand, but sometimes they create other processes. Sometimes an automated process is creating something that makes something else more difficult. So have a look at tools that you're using. Good time to do an assessment of those, and talk to those suppliers. You know, talk to your software supplier, your database organization. Talk to those add-on tools about what you could be doing differently. Like most things, we often take something and we use part of that tool for what we need it for, but it often does 100 other things, and we don't always know that until we have the time to sort of come up and go, oh, what else do you do? What else does your tool do? What else could I be using it for? And these tools are evolving all the time. So do a tools assessment to improve your accuracy, and look at tools that will improve your efficiency as well, things that will make the job, you know, faster, of course. Getting on to final slides. I'm running a little bit over time, but I'm going to keep moving through. This one is just about what should you have done before this happened. It's a bit, this one's a bit mean because we're kind of all still in the middle of it and it's all still painful. But what should you have done before this happened? What could you have done that might have prevented it? Could you review the way you view things? So think about those innovation elements, think about different ways of looking at it. Think about creating a plan for the next 6 months. What's your contingency? And I mean that personally too. If you haven't already all done that, do your financial contingency. What does it look like if you lose your job today? How long can you last paying your bills, right? Have all of that down in place. You may never need it, but at least you've thought about it and you've got some plans there should you need to enact it, okay? And that's a bit for your own personal sake. But think about it on the desk. What is my plan for the next 6 months? How will I prevent being in this position next time? How can I stop having no jobs? How can I stop that happening next time? Have a good think about that. Is it about diversification? Is it about relationships with clients? Have you lost client contact because you didn't really have a very deep relationship from the start? So take a bit of time for introspection. As I said, a bit mean because I know everyone's in pain, but it's a good time for that now. And you all, recruiters, all need to become new normal natives. I'm coining this phrase. This is the new normal. There is no, we're just in it for now and it's all going to go back to normal. The whole landscape of the workforce will change because of this. There is no doubt about it. It might be a subtle change, but it will change. Think about just something as simple as this video call with all of you on it. How comfortable are we now in front of the video compared to what we were a month ago? Okay? People are now comfortable with that medium. Why? Because we had to be. So it's a new normal of the way things will go. Maybe interviews won't ever be face-to-face ever again. What if that's the case? I don't know. I prefer to do face-to-face, I know. But what if that's the normal, right? This is the new normal. So be a new normal native, meaning adopt it quickly and early. Get on with it. Get into what is now, what felt strange is now normal. Just deal with it now. Get on, act like it is normal now. Okay, you'll come out of it better at the other end. If it goes back, that's okay. But be a new normal native, the new normal. All right, I just want to touch on mental health because it is important. This is a tough job. We know that. Those of us that have been in it a long time are very grey like myself. That's for a reason. Mental health and looking after yourself is really important. I've got a couple of points to make here. Important that you understand and know your personal stress limits. So if you haven't really been pushed before, you need to understand what is your limit and understand those feelings. Be really present in understanding when you feel like you've had enough and try and be aware of that and, go for the walk and do all the things that you might need to do. You absolutely need to build your resilience muscle. This is a time to reset that tape in your head that tells you all the negative thoughts, that tells you that you're not, going to make it, it's not going to happen. All of that negativity that's playing, you need to stop and reset that tape and build that resilience muscle. It's okay. I can do this. I can get it. Take small goals and achieve them now, even in your personal life. Okay. If there's something you've been meaning to do, take a bite-sized, small chunk of it now, achieve it and reward yourself for that and do it again and do it again. And the same at work. What can I be doing? Make my plan, make my list. And as I work through it, it's going to be okay. I'm working through my plan. Reward yourself little rewards along the way. This is a way to help build that resilience muscle. Makes you eager to keep going back for more when things are tough. I also encourage you to filter the news with the facts. Okay, there's a lot of information. Okay, I'm a little bit of a victim of this. I read way too much. I love to read, and so therefore I overindulge in information. I read too much information, and it's actually really important that you filter what you're reading with the facts. There are a lot of stories. There's a lot of information out there. Look for the facts in the articles. If it's not based on fact, if it just says, China planned this all along, where is the evidence of that? It may very well be true. Who knows? I don't know. But is the information I'm reading based on fact, or is it just someone's opinion? If it's someone's opinion, put it in that box, okay? Filter that out. And it's really important, as many of you will know, we've had this drummed into us about the physicality of what we're doing, okay? We're all now in a different physical space. We're not always at a desk. I've been working sometimes on the land, on the couch, sitting with bad posture. It's really important to make sure from a physical sense that we look after ourselves for our mental health, but also, for our physical being. So I encourage you to look at physical options. We've got Han on the call with us today. Han's a personal trainer. He's a personal training business on the side. He's a new recruiter in the industry who I've been training. He's got a great offering on the side to do, some lunchtime sessions. In fact, he's running them now. I believe he got a special offer. I'll pop that up later if anyone's interested. I think it's first session free, and then, to do some lunchtime activities with somebody who's qualified to take you through that on your video screen with a bunch of other people who are just like you, sitting in their lounge room, or in their on their couch, or in their makeshift home office, and not actually getting out there and getting an activity. I had a question then, but it's disappeared. So yeah, thank you, Han, for joining us. And if anyone's interested in his programs, give me a is that you? Someone's trying to message me. No, it's gone again. All right. So yes, look after your mental health. There's organisations that have some great info online. Bouncebackproject.com, and another one called Connect Psych Services is another one I would encourage you to have a look at as well. They're putting out some great free stuff, free webinars, things that you can participate in, and some physical activity, as I've already mentioned. All right, coming to the final slide. This is a summary. So your survival kit involves doing a sales strategy or reviewing your sales strategy, targeting industries that you know are recruiting at the moment, innovating your service, who can be using your service and in different ways, talking about your candidate pool, making it strategic, making sure you're having strategic conversations and building up candidates in the right areas, maintaining positivity through this, making sure that your brand is on target and is on point for where it's heading, be active on social media and use it to the best of your advantage. Do a database overhaul, absolutely. Manage the database as best you can. Build your online network. Clients are much more receptive right now to approaches online. You harness that and utilize it, and use this time to build some professional development for yourself. Train yourself, use your skills as best you can. All right, that's a quick summary. The last few bits I've got to give you is what I want to do is the brainstorm. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes if we can do that. And I've also got for you a COVID-19 action plan. So when you get this presentation, the last slide will be this little chart which just says, these are the things I should action straight away. So at the end of today, grab this and go, okay, what recruitment have I got in play? What have I got to recruit right now? What is active jobs? Have a look at my strategic plan for sales, for communication, for contact, for marketing, for social databases. What proactive activities can I start today? So if you've written some down from what I've said, that's where they go on this chart. Here's some of the things that I've picked up from Adele or from what others have been saying. I'm going to pop those in there. What does my desk look like in 6 months? I want you to sit there and envisage that. What does it look like in 6 months' time? You don't know what's going to happen in the world, but what do you want it to look like in 6 months' time? And so therefore, what actions do I need to do now that lead me to that vision in 6 months' time? I'm keeping it narrow 6 months, but that's really important. And then everything you do every day, put that filter on. Does this lead me to my goal? Does this activity help me towards the direction of that goal? If it doesn't, it's a waste of time. Move on. Drop that and do something else. That is the best sort of survival advice I could give you. All right, that's it for me talking. I want to open the floor up. It is going to be hard with a big number. So just either pop it in the chat if you've got an idea, or turn your mic off and just say your name so we can find you. If everyone talks at once, I'll have to just pick one or two. I've opened this page. This is a blank page that I want to type on. I want to put down any ideas that you guys might have that I haven't thought of. What are you currently doing to survive? What is working for you? What are other ideas you've read? What are things that I haven't covered here that could help the rest of the community? You may very well save somebody from, you know, a really difficult situation of potentially losing their job or closing up their business. So, you know, let's help each other out here. Who would like to go first? Is there anything in the chat, or is there anyone who'd like to turn off their mic and have something to say? I'm going to get silence now, like at an auction. Nobody wants to speak. There's got to be things I didn't cover. I covered a lot. I know you just had a bombardment of information for the last hour or so. What else are you doing to survive right now?
Adele, Sam Cotgrave.
Great, thanks, Sam.
Look, and you sort of covered them in a couple of different ways, but I think the importance of, as well as the organisation and the brands being clear about its value proposition, each consultant being very clear and having that conversation with themselves and their manager about what is their value proposition. So being really clear about that. The other side of it, the other thing that I talked to the team about this morning was it's a great time to get our clients partner ready. So as we settle into the next few weeks, things will settle a little bit. Most of our clients have just been at that sort of deer in the headlights panic, but things will settle and they will become a bit quieter and not have immediate recruitment needs. But it's a great time to sort of talk to them about, let's get prepared for when things do get busy. So, you know, making sure terms of business are signed, making sure we understand their organisations and where their needs are, making sure credit checks are done. We can do the OH&S from temp side rather than site visit. We can review their OH&S. So that sort of client ready. So when they are busy and they don't have time, we're ready to go. So you've covered it, and I just wanted to add in there, Adele.
Excellent. No, that they are both great, and I've added those. So your personal value proposition. What is it that you actually offer and bring? What is your USP as an individual? What is the company USP? Do you know that and get really clear about it? I think that's a great one. And yes, getting your client partner ready, checking off all of those things. Have you got up-to-date terms of business signed? When was the last time you did your site checks? What kind of recruitment have they been doing? You know, maybe what about putting together a management report for them that shows them how long the relationship's been going for, how many recruitment exercises you've been through, what kind of positions, what kind of salaries, what kind of genders the people have been that you've placed in their business. You know, if you've got a client where you've done some volume, this is really interesting data to a client, and we have it. And we don't think about it very often, but we have this information, and in most cases you can get it at the click of a button, or with a bit of, you know, tweaking through the database. You've got time to do that now. Put together a little bit of a report to the client. Sometimes you don't want to put spend on there because you don't want to see how much they've spent in total. I get that, but there's other great stats and data. You know, genders, ages, backgrounds, qualifications. You know, 50% of the people we're placing with you have a university degree or higher, or, you know, whatever it might be. So think about getting them, you're right, partner ready. Check all the things you need from a compliance perspective, but what else can you give them free that you've got access to that they're going to love? And it's a reason to call. Hey, I've done this great report for you. Can I have a chat with you? If you've got time, let me make a video meeting with you next week. I just want to run it through with you. I'll send it to you, and then I just want to run through it with you. I think it's got some great info that'll help us get ready for when we're back on track. It's a great one. Thanks, Sam. Does anybody else have anything? Don't be afraid. It's not, you know, it's a safe space.
So my name's Melissa Agnew. Hi, Adele and everyone.
Hello.
So my question's around, so I know we've talked about more of the 360 and the consulting piece. What about for businesses where there's a BDM that kind of rainmakes for parts of the business? Any advice, tips? Does anyone have anything?
And are you the BDM or are you the
BDM?
You're the BDM. Okay. I wasn't sure whether you were sort of going, well, now I'm going to be stepping on the BDM's toes. You're the BDM. Yeah. Look, what you'll know as a BDM is that sales processes have been for a long time a long process, right? Very rarely nowadays do we get to pick up the phone, and there was a time when we used to do this, pick up the phone, hey, I'm from such and such agency, have you got some recruitment work that you need help with? I'm here to help. Yeah, actually we happen to have a job. You know, that was kind of 80s stuff that went on, you know, in the 80s. It doesn't happen that way now. You have to build this long relationship, do you not? It's up to 10 now. Does everyone know that? 10 contacts with a client before they buy. Okay, it's up to 10. It used to be 4, 5, it got to 6, it's now 10. 10 different times they want to connect with you before they buy. So what are you doing now? You're just banking up your contacts. You're just building your 10 contacts so that you can make them ready to buy when they can buy. They can't buy now. We know that they are in a position where they're putting people off. They may not be wanting to recruit, but maybe there are some things you can buy. Maybe there are other services your business offers, HR consulting services or other things you might offer, or you're priming them to be ready to buy. What is it, when the market picks back up, what are the concerns you'll have? Let's talk about that now. Can we get the contract sorted? Can we get pricing out of the way? Can we get terms of business done? Can we get payment terms? You know, what are they likely to be? Have all those same conversations, Melissa, because then you'll get them ready when the time comes. And they may say, oh, we don't need to do all of that now. It's too early. We're not recruiting. Yeah, we understand that. But this is a good time now to start having that discussion, because when the market picks back up, Mr. Client, you are going to be competing. It's like a gun's going to go off and everyone's going to be racing for talent. You don't want to be in a position at that point to be going, oh, but actually we're going to need 21-day terms and oh, this and oh, that, and 3 weeks go by before we can get out to the market for you. You need us out at the market at the forefront the minute it starts to turn, and we are at the forefront as agencies. If you aren't ready to go with us, we won't be able to respond to you. Your competitor's going to get the best talent.
Okay. What about, and my last question, sorry, and thanks for that, is, so let's say, for example, so we're predominantly an insurance recruiter, and let's say, okay, so cleaning and stocking shelves is really big at the moment. Is that too far a shift to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on temp cleaners and temp stock shelf fillers for the next 6 months?
It's a really good question actually to ask. And I think I'm laughing because I think it's really interesting that, yes, there have been recruitment agencies I've already had conversations with who've gone from, you know, very professional services type recruitment to trying to kind of go, you know, how do we get in touch with Coles? You know, I'm going to start recruiting, you know, shelf stockers for Coles. I think it's a question probably to have with the owner or with your manager about how far the business wants to go. There's absolute possibility to do that. There's absolute possibility that any one of us could pivot that far around. There's no doubt about it. As recruiters, we could absolutely do that. It's about whether they want to.
Sure.
So it's about whether, as a business, strategically, that's wise. If it's what you want to do. If it's survival, it may very well be wise. It may be something we have to do. If it's about, well, you know what, it's not somewhere where I want to go just yet, or I don't think it's going to keep us in line for the longer term. I think I'd like to keep it on the ancillary of that. You know, how else could we look at it? But there's a lot that comes out around that. So more workers in supermarkets mean that, you know, that there's probably more work for WorkSafe to do. Okay, and insurers around that. Okay, so are your work cover insurers busier now because WorkSafe's on it now, because there's now 5,000 extra people walking around a supermarket, which is a reasonably high risk environment, or they're out the back packing or picking. Do you see what I'm saying? So think about those things that are growing, but how does it relate to your own industry, and can you make that connection? Could there be businesses in your own space that are getting some of the flow on impact, instead of going and starting to, you know, find, you know, supermarket shelf stockers? Yeah, hopefully that answers.
Thanks for answering those questions.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions or any other comments on my brainstorm? I can't have had that comprehensive a list. Come on. I'll be very surprised if that's the case. Look, if you think of some of the others later on, we're coming up to 1:30. I'm conscious of the time. If you think of any others, and when we close down, or you're too shy to speak publicly, pop them in the chat. Send an email to Tony or myself, and I'll add them to this and send this at the end of the day. There is also an extra page on the end of this, which is a list of resources. great resources and articles that I've created. These are links, so these are of no use to you here. I'll send this to you, but links to great articles that I want you to have a read of, that will give you some factual information, that will give you some great advice. Some of this stuff I took from these articles. Some of them were ones that I couldn't kind of encapsulate in my presentation, but I thought they had good advice. They do mention the word recession there, don't panic, but that's learnings from, you know, the previous recessions, but some really good further reading advice there. So that's free to you for hanging on the line here now. And as I said, that'll come out later this afternoon. If you've got any other brainstorming ideas, I will add them to this page before we send them out. If there are any final questions, let me know. I'll hang around on the call for a little bit longer if anybody wants to stay around and ask some more questions. Thank you very much for your time. I absolutely appreciate your time and attention. I'm hoping that you did all get something out of this, some little tip that might help you with an idea that keeps you in the game, so to speak. I look forward to seeing you all on another call, another time. Connect in with me, link in with me personally. I do share lots of information that could be of value to you. We are going to get through this as a community. The recruitment industry recovers from these scenarios faster than any other. Okay, I'll tell you that from previous experience. We're hit hard, yes, because we're at the mercy of our clients, but when it starts to turn, when business starts to turn around, they start looking for talent, they come to us first. Be there, be ready, stay positive. Have a great day. Thank you. So any